Carrie, will you talk to me about probably what everyone is thinking about from a legal perspective of how do you set up these calls, right? You're starting a relationship, and maybe Gideon, if you want to prep that as we get into Carrie of this UPL conversation. So if we're going to start, Carrie, yes, you're an attorney from Florida, but you don't operate in any legal capacity for Drucker. So
Yeah,
how does
so
that work internally for you?
yeah, I'll start just because, quite frankly, the initial conversation does start with myself or other lead advisors and then funnels to Carrie. Every new client that we work with at Drucker Wealth, we do, and I'll keep this short, we do what we call a financial life plan, but it's basically a 2 month engagement. We walk through every aspect of their financial world. And we want to bring in, we have a lead advisor, but we want to bring in the tax team as relevant. And, we've actually, and we've made changes along the way. Carrie and I both know we have to be super flexible as we're incorporating new systems, technology into everything we do. But Carrie actually now meets with the client as part of that initial engagement. Purely that first thing I said of it's a high level overview, education, understanding what are your estate planning goals? Have you spent? That could be an interesting question for clients. I'm supposed to have estate planning goal. Like, what does that even mean? What do I want my estate plan to look like? But just to kind of unpack. And I always start from the very first call we have with clients. Obviously we're not a law firm. Carrie's not practicing law. We do have an avenue that can help. Carrie said the 80%, and I tend to use examples of we will absolutely bring in an attorney if we think it doesn't make sense to use the platform. And I really want to make it clear that Carrie's role is to help figure out what makes the most sense to get your estate planning documents done, whether that involves us directly or us outsourcing and then coming back around. But we incorporate that into every plan. And then for existing clients, because obviously we have a lot of wealth management existing clients from before we were using Encore, that Carrie used the term, and I think it's great, issue spotting. I think that's a big part of the lead advisor's role at a helicopter view, right? If we're having a review meeting and we're looking, hey, they don't have estate planning documents, or they just had another child and their beneficiaries haven't been updated. Us being able to look at that and say, you know what, we need to pivot the conversation, set up another call, and just, hey, we think it's really important. We now have Carrie on the team. We want to make sure you have your estate planning documents set up, that you understand how it all fits. All I'm suggesting, we're going to bring in Carrie for a 15, 20-minute intro meeting. We're not setting up documents. You're not paying a fee. We're not up to that. We're really just going to help you understand avenues you have, right? What are your options? What's important to you? And I know Carrie's going to do a great job of kind of presenting the client where they stand, where they're going. Sometimes that'll inevitably or naturally move into the estate planning Encore workflow. And we do charge a fee, and I can explain how we think through all of that, but we can walk through what the fee is, the process. Clients sometimes say, yeah, this is important, but honestly, I'm not going to do this. For 3 months, I'm getting killed at work. Like, I don't have time. And then we'll say, no problem. Carrie will reach out in the spring. We know it's important. We're going to put this. And all of a sudden, something we spoke about for 15 minutes is now part of our financial plan, right? And we at least have an action item involving Carrie, follow up, and we can incorporate that into everything we're doing. And then it moves into Carrie's world. And now they're on her plate, they're on her list, and we can be proactive and persistent. As we all know, like the procrastination answer, we need to be, but we can do so in a smart way rather than just like guessing or randomly throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, and pivoting to you, Carrie, because I know this is not coming to a client saying, would you like to buy a will or a trust, right? This is not that
Exactly.
conversation. And so as you're joining those introductory calls and you're moving into that sense, I know that we have disclosures, obviously, but will you just talk about what does that look like to you in your mind of setting that stage to the client once that initial pivot has been made from the lead advisor?
Right, right. So in the early stages or the beginning stages of the financial life plan, when we're getting information into the inputs, that's when my first contact with the client happens. And I'm always, one of the things I'll say right off the bat, I am a lawyer. I am not your lawyer. I make that clear. We're recording everything so that they do know that I'm not acting as their attorney. And then I explain my role to them as, one, just an issue spotter, two, an educator. I want to help educate them because lots of people, the procrastination part of it is because anytime you don't know what you're getting into, that's what causes the procrastination. You're scared. It's a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
Estate planning is not people's favorite thing to talk about. They don't want to talk about what happens if they're not around to take care of their own children, So all of those things we build into the plan, and they need to talk about it because I'm there and I'm asking these types of questions. But I'm careful to let them know I'm not a lawyer. I do talk about what I can do, and especially in that beginning part. My job there is just to, again, educate, help answer questions. Maybe they don't even know what a will versus a trust is, those sorts of things. So I do that educational part, and then I dovetail it with the financial plan and say, one of the things we're trying to make sure is that you have everything in order, because you can have all of the finances look great and you got 100% on your Monte Carlo, you're going to be successful and retire with millions of dollars. But we want to make sure that that's got somewhere to go and that your plan isn't messed up because of inadvertent beneficiary designations or something like that. So even at the outset, I'm helping to review those with clients. I mean, we pull in life insurance beneficiaries, 401k beneficiaries, and those aren't always easy to find on those statements. So clients a lot of times are searching for that, and I'm getting really good at figuring out where they are. But to make sure that we're gathering all that information to give them value within this financial life plan that we're designing, that the advisors are designing. And so I try in that initial part just to be a source of education. If they already have estate planning documents, then great. Then I'm going to want to look at them so that I can make sure, again, that their estate plan doesn't say one thing and they're telling me it says something else, because that does happen too,
Yeah.
So it's just a set of eyes to look over everything that they have in the estate planning world to provide that guidance as the financial life plan continues. And we sort of make it part of the process so that they don't really have a choice. Like I was saying, they're not going to get to procrastinate because we're doing it. And sometimes getting the ball rolling is the hardest part. And in my practice, I had 90-year-olds that came in and said, well, it's probably time, never had anything. And I'm like, yes, let's get that done tomorrow.
And I know you, similar to me, from an attorney side, I've been called into ICUs, right? People they always think there's more time, right? They always think that there's tomorrow. And that's life insurance, right? That's why there's so many of these things that we just don't know. With you and your operational side of it, so we've set the expectation to clients, because I know, Matt will talk more about different processes here, but for you, are you just sending a questionnaire to a client, client's filling out everything and they handle it? Are you on a Zoom call? Like, what does that actually look like to collect information to enter into the Encore platform?
Okay, so when we have the clients that are ready to proceed and we're going to be utilizing EncorEstate Plans, I use the information that EncorEstate Plans provides. I like to rely on that because then it's not something that I'm creating, further pushing me into, is this a gray area where I'm influencing something or trying to make the client think I'm suggesting something that I'm not or that I can't.
Yeah.
So I do rely on the EncorEstate Plans questionnaires, and I send those out, and I do ask the clients to fill them out. We may have some of the information already, but I say I want this in this format for compliance purposes and for my process to have that as client led or client filled out. So that's their words and their information. So that's one thing that I do keep separate. I already know their name and address. I have all that, but I want them to put that in so that it's in that format. And then I ask them to send that in and I review it just to see if there's anything in there that pops out that, again, is unusual or something where I'm going to say, okay, they're asking a question about why would I want to extend a trust for my child until they're 50, something like that. Okay, so I can pull together other educational information and say, this is why this might be done in certain situations. And these are things that happen on pros and cons or something like that, so that I can help explain that. And then we have a meeting. I call it the input review meeting, basically. And we go over the form. So the questionnaires, I have all clients do the healthcare wishes form as well, just because even if they're not going to be very specific, I need to be able to put that into the software. So I have them do that as well. And then we talk about the actual documents, more education on what are these documents, what's the goal of having these documents, and how are you going to utilize them. And then there's other questions that come up that are just, where are we going to put them? Or how are we going to get them signed? Or how do we make changes? So that some of the process stuff comes after that. And then once I'm clear that I've got the information I need for the software inputs, I do it. And I do the advisor led, which means that I'm the one doing the inputs basically and communicating with EncorEstate through the support chat or through emails, so that I'm driving it, because leaving it to the client is it's my job to do it. It's not really their job to do it. They're not getting paid by somebody to do it, but I am. So that's helping move things forward as far as overcoming that inertia for the client.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I'm going to do a quick little what I think I heard from you to make sure, and then bring it back to Matt. But hearing what you're talking about is it's coming from the advisor side. I know that you were hired in just to handle, you're not building all the financial plans, you're not doing that, but you're collecting information. The questionnaires that you're talking about, Encore has ones for trust-based, will-based, married, single. It's catered to what the client situation is. They're filling that out, and then you're confirming that information. But the questions along the way, Encore has hundreds of resources in our knowledge base for any question client scenario. And if you're not stepping in to answer that for them and say, do this, but they're going, per Stirpes lapse, I don't know how to answer that one, you go ahead and pull in and say, well, here's what both of them mean so that you can make the decision for your firm. So, and then entering the data. And just to be clear, this is not a link that gets sent out to a client that they fill in all the information and then you're just have the status bar waiting for the plan to get completed. This is you're sitting there, you have the login with Encore, which for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't experienced Encore, you can go to our website, create an account for free. There's no contract to sign, no credit card to add in. All of those resources Carrie's mentioned, they're free resources. You can white label them to your own firm. That's what we've gone through to cultivate all of this information. So just that's your quarterbacking that of providing the relevant information, going, hey, this is popping up that maybe we need to bring in counsel for this there.